channel. It's me, Jenisha Stanley again, and today I'm going to review the book, Who Was Neil Armstrong? This book was written by Roberta Edwards and illustrated by Stephen Marchesi. This book has 105 pages and 11 chapters, including the timeline of Neil Armstrong's life and the world. Well, who is Neil Armstrong? Well, Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon. The words he said before stepping on the moon were, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Just after midnight on August 5th, 1930, Neil Armstrong was born, and Neil Armstrong had two younger siblings, a younger sister named June and a younger brother named Dean. Neil's mother stayed home and taught Neil, June, and Dean. She also taught Sunday school, while Neil's father worked for the Ohio state government. When Neil read books, he loved them, and he read books mostly about airplanes, and by the time he finished kindergarten, he read more than 100 books. His favorite subjects were math and science. After Neil's school was finished, Neil attended Purdue University in Indiana, and there he studied aeronautical engineering. Well, do you know what that is? Well, aeronautical engineering is actually this. It is how planes are built and how they fly. And after 2 years at Purdue came 3 years in the Navy. And there, Neil learned how to fly single-engine fighter jets. In 1950, Neil became a Navy aviator, but then later on, the Korean War broke out. It's when North Korea invaded South Korea. And then North Korea and South Korea started fighting with each other, and that brought Neil all the way to the other side of the globe. His job was to bomb enemy bridges and railroad. Neil joined an Air Force base in the Mojave Desert in California, and what did he do there? Well, he flew planes that are rocket propelled, such as the X-15 that flew 50 miles above Earth, and at that altitude is actually the beginning of outer space with all those stars. And another one had to be launched out of a plane that was already in flight, and this one could actually go at speeds of 4,000 miles per hour and reach an altitude of 207,500 feet. In 1957, Russia sent the very first man-made satellite into outer space, Sputnik 1. Well, Sputnik 1 was the size of a beach ball and weighed less than 200 pounds. And then NASA decided to send people to the moon, and Neil was one of the people in one of the missions. Neil went on 2 voyages to the moon, Gemini 8 and Apollo 11. The first one was Gemini 8. That mission couldn't be completed because something did go wrong. NASA immediately commanded everyone in the pod to bring it back to Earth, and then there was a splash landing in the Pacific Ocean. Everyone got home safe and sound, but Neil was very depressed that the mission couldn't be completed. But then his second one came, Apollo 11. Neil was the commander. There were 2 other astronauts, Edwin Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins. The 3 astronauts stepped into Saturn V, the rocket that would launch Apollo 11 into outer space. Michael Collins stayed in a pod called Columbia, which stayed in Earth orbit, while Neil and Buzz were in a spacecraft called the Eagle, the spacecraft that would go to the moon. Just before the Eagle was about to land, Neil saw that the landing pad was too rocky with less than a minute's worth of fuel left. Neil immediately grabbed the controls and steered it to a flat area 4.5 miles away, and then after it landed, Neil said, "The Eagle has landed." NASA awarded Neil the honor to step first on the moon. He said, "One small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." 18 minutes after Neil got out, Buzz hopped out of the Eagle and became the second person to start walking on the moon. They spent 2.5 hours on the moon. And do you know what they did on there? They collected moon rocks and moon dust samples. And then after that, they climbed back into the Eagle and connected with Columbia. It took 60 hours for the return trip. And then there was a splash landing in the Pacific Ocean when helicopters rescued them. I forgot to tell you this, the astronauts actually planted an American flag on the moon, and also their footprints are still there because there is practically no wind. And then after they got back, they became world famous, and they also got a grand tour of the United States and also 21 countries. It was a huge world tour. And after that, Armstrong became a professor at an Ohio college, and on August 25th, 2012, Armstrong died. He was a great man and also the very first person to set foot on the moon. Friends, thanks for watching my videos. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel to stay tuned in on my new videos. I'll fly over to my next video. See you there!